I appreciate all of you joining. Thank you for your time. So, a brief intro about Sandeep. And actually, Sandeep is somebody I met through my interactions on LinkedIn and then started following his work. And then I picked up his book and went through it. And the interesting part is I found a lot of resonance in what he was doing and what I believed in. And that was one of the key reasons why I wanted to feature this topic, because in the as we evolve as corporates, I think leadership is key, and practicing conscious leadership is very important. And while everybody has intent to be a conscious leader, one is the awareness of what it is and how to do is certainly not very obvious to a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted this kind of topic to be a thing. Sandeep has a lot of following and has been doing this work for a long time. A celebrated author, and I just want to pay justice to his profile, so I'm going to refer to some notes and make sure that I cover most things. So Sandeep is an author, life alchemist, and the founder of Soul in Harmony. That's the name of his organization. And Soul in Harmony is about life transformation and not just about coaching. Silicon India featured them as one of the India's top performing, most promising life coaching companies in the country. He's touched more than 45,000 lives across 10 countries in the last 13 plus years, conducted personal transformation, workshops based on self-mastery code, which is endorsed by John Mattoni. Daniel Goldman has endorsed his book, Igniting Conscious Leadership. He advocates Soul in Harmony conscious leadership through a 5-step framework, which is something that we're going to try and cover in the workshop as well, so that you walk away with some clear takeaways. He's worked in corporate for about 15 years and then found his calling. And I think for the last almost 13 years, he's been doing this work. And they do workshops, programs, customized interventions for corporates. He also does retreats and does coaching for individuals. He's been featured on different media, both the national and international radio, TV shows, and covered in several kind of publications as well. He offers certifications in mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and executive leadership. So his vision is to connect humans through their inner alchemy for holistic growth. And the mission is to become the global #1 conscious leadership provider to individuals, institutions, and corporations, ensuring a successful, balanced personal and professional life, leading to a more joyful world. Very inspiring, Sandeep. So happy to, have you here. And, if there's anything that, that's prominent that you'd like to, kind of talk about in your intro, please go ahead. And then we'll get into the discussion.
Oh, first of all, thank you very much, Sriram, for having me on this show. And thanks to all the participants who took time away on a Monday evening to be part of this. As we were discussing, that it was not a Thursday or a Friday, it is a Monday morning, Monday evening. And so thanks to all of them. And thanks to you again, Sriram, for the wonderful introduction, which is all complete. I don't want to add anything there. My viewpoints, my essence of what I live for, what my mission is, will come through as we discuss. So let's get started.
Done. So let's dive right in. And obviously, going by the topic, I think we'd like to understand the topic a lot better. So what does it mean to be a conscious leader? What ingredients actually go into it?
So when there is a word leader which comes in front of us, in front of our eyes, or maybe we hear it, we always think about how a leader is impacting and influencing others. But there are few steps before that. How is that person who's going to impact and influence others, is he himself or herself ready to be the leader? So that is the premise of my book, Igniting Conscious Leadership, which says there are 4 steps before you become leader to others and start influencing and impacting others' lives. And those first four steps are inward facing. So, conscious leadership is a very revolutionary and impactful technique which is more allied and inclusive, which is heart centered, purpose driven, values focused, and takes people along the on the way along with them. Okay, so it is all about starting with self awareness, then then comes self reflection, then the third stage is acceptance and forgiveness to ourselves and to others. Then we move on to revamp our self image. Once we do that, only then I believe we are ready to have an impact and influence on others, where we that is the stage where we say, where which I call it as unified and purposeful growth. That is where we take the society, the country. So that's the premise of conscious leadership, where it is more about values focused. I repeat, heart centered and purpose driven. So it is more about intentionality. So we'll discuss more about this topic as we go ahead, but I don't want to load too many things in the beginning.
Fair enough. All right. One of the things that I noticed, Sandeep, is that especially in leadership, most people have good intent. You hardly find anybody at a very senior leadership level where their intent is, kind of, I think very, very few people. Most people have good intent, but that intent doesn't necessarily gets transferred into impact.
Yeah.
And largely the missing pieces in that is that whole transmission from intent to behaviors and actions and decisions. There is something that is, kind of going wrong in that piece. And most times, because they're leaders, they don't get the feedback loop, which kind of tells them what the problem is. And hence the impact starts suffering. And over a period of time, because the impact is poor, then, but by the time it's too late. Whereas if it's a junior person, you're always giving feedback and on their thing, the most small mistake they make, they have somebody watching, telling them, hey, do this way and so on. But leaders, I feel that, and most times because they're also sitting in good intent, they don't realize the need to change. And I think one of the issues is that, and now even when you're doing coaching, right, most leaders don't believe they need coaching. Okay, very, very few people, if you take and will say, okay, I actually want coaching. Because I think the thing is this, that they believe that they've reached somewhere based on their experience of success. And I believe that is good enough. It's not that, they're looking down on coaching. It's just that they don't think it's, required as a thing. So I'd like you to, kind of respond to that. And then we'll go into each of these pieces that you spoke about.
Sure. So, yeah, I agree that none of us, not only leaders, none of us as individuals, we intend to do anything wrong to individuals, not only within the organizations, but in our neighborhood, in our family, in our society as we live. But things happen, life happens, and there are team dynamics, there are biases, prejudices, there are conditionings which comes into play. There are there are some favorites, there are some goals to be achieved, there are priorities. So all those things intertwine, and just it just happens in a moment that you take a side, because your goals are something that you are going after, and that happens. As soon as that happens, you lose that touch of self-awareness.
Okay.
When we get mindless and get into an autopilot mode, and we start behaving the way how we used to behave, even before in earlier situations, that is when we get into an autopilot mode, and all these things, no factors that I just now no told, starts behaving with start interplaying with your decision making, and then you just flow into that mood of being prejudiced, being biased, I am just calling all these words out so that we don't mince words. It all happens because there are achievements, there are targets, and whatever function the leader is responsible for, he has to respond, he has to reply, and he has to comply to the organization's charter, which he's responsible for. So the most important thing here is self-awareness. The foundation of self-awareness has to be so strong and so well cemented that come what may, the person is able to bring himself or herself back into what is happening. He has to have that objectivity rather than how he is looking at it. So there is a situation, there is difference between the truth and reality. Truth is how I see it. Reality is the objectivity of the whole situation, how the thing has unfolded. I mean, maybe there is a dispute in a maybe a conflict in a team, and the leader has to sort it out. He has to look at it in a very objective way, right? To have a objective look at it, he has to have that mindfulness foundation well laid out, so that he is looking at it objectively, not with any biases or prejudices.
Yeah. So, and because I'm also doing a lot of work on unconscious bias, over the last few years, and I realized that, there is, we carry so many biases within us, and because most of us like to operate from a good intent perspective, unless the problem is really big, that whole need to become self-aware, is often kind of not felt as a thing. But I completely agree. I think without self-awareness, there is no kind of progress that we can make in not only in leadership but also in our own development. I think, right, it's absolutely key for people to kind of focus on self-awareness. But I think the issue is because we place leaders on a pedestal, and sometimes what that means is that what you have done so far is right, and that is why you've gotten to where you've gotten. And sometimes I feel that itself is a impediment to self-awareness,
Yes,
because
yes, openness. Yeah.
yeah, because I live on my experiences, and my experiences have projected has certain way of functioning. But the problem is that when I get into a leadership role, then my it's not the same thing that I've done, right? I'm expected to do more. I'm expected to be wise. I'm expected to, kind of take decisions which are beyond. Because most times, how do you grow? You grow as a team leader where you've looked at your team and you've made decisions for them. Suddenly, you become a leader, and then you have to take a decision where you have to look at your team and the rest of the company. But then your mindset hasn't evolved that much, right? Because you've just seen one dimension.
Good point. Yeah, and that is, I mean, I missed out one point, and this sentence brought me back to that point, and that is, we just don't want to have the mindset. We need to have a heart set, a soul set, and a body set. I mean, see, if we are operating from a mindset, it means that we are applying too much of an intellect. But however, if we also include the in the whole equation, if we include compassion, if we include, that is where the heart comes in, the playfulness, the openness with which we take the feedback, as you rightly said, that leaders take up the high pedestal, right? I mean, it is like they feel that I have reached here because I have achieved something. So therefore, they assume, or maybe by default, they assume that maybe I'm not that open to feedback as much. I'll be very selective about it. So that is where the heart-centered, purpose-driven, and values-focused leadership style. And that is what conscious leadership is all about. It's not just about mindset, and that myth I have broken through my book, that it's not just the mindset. Had it been so, EQ would not have been discussed so much at length in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
From 1995 onwards, Dr. Daniel Goleman has done
Mm.
fabulous work in saying that, emotional intelligence, and even now the recent researches and reports are saying that the next 10, 15, 20 years,
Mm.
emotional intelligence has come into the whole equation of being successful in a corporate role,
Yeah.
the working professional, not only corporate role, but any working professionals, any workspace.
Yeah. And I think, one of those, I've often wondered, why do you have so many Indian CEOs for tech setups globally, right? And I think that's because of the culture that, they've grown up in, which is that India is a very emotional, relationship focused culture.
Right,
And we are used to, kind of managing large numbers of people over here. And because I don't think it's just an intellect advantage that is there, because
right,
are smart people over there as well. But I think the key is that, it's coming from the emotional intelligence. And
right,
there's evidence now. If I think at some point, if they study all the Indian CEOs and then kind of pull out what really differentiated them from others and why this is happening, it won't be just a matter of numbers. It's probably going
right.
to point to emotional intelligence as the key. Sandeep,
Okay.
one question I had is on compassion and empathy, right? Because there's always this thing that we have that makes us weak and soft. Compassion
Mm,
or kind of empathy. Sometimes as humans we'd like to be compassionate. Nobody wants to be harsh. Nobody wants to kind of be the villain intentionally. But sometimes your belief system is that unless you do things a certain way, results won't get achieved. And if results then don't get achieved, obviously it kicks in your sense of fear. And then but the core of it is that there is still a very strong resistance to these ideas of compassion, mindfulness, empathy at a broad level in corporates. And I see that one of the things is that there is a fear that this will make us too nice, too soft,
mm,
too ineffective.
right.
And how would you kind of comment on that?
Okay. So good point. I mean, this was the case, Sriram, a few years back, I would say pre-COVID,
Hmm.
but things have rapidly changed
Hmm.
post-COVID. And I
Hmm.
can see because of multiple factors, we saw so many exits, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, we saw moonlighting,
Hmm.
saw so many factors coming into play, and now the trend is reversed, like there are
Hmm.
no jobs. So there are a lot of things which are undercurrents. And to handle these challenges in the corporate world,
Hmm.
uh, mindfulness is no more a soft thing.
Right.
People have understood that we have applied all the tool set to
Hmm.
the complete toolkit has been used in the last so many years. I mean, I would consider it from the 90s when the information internet age came in,
Hmm.
1990s, right?
Hmm.
So for 20, 30 years, people try to use the same toolkit and get the results. But now the results are not coming. There's some bottleneck which has sprung up, and they have realized, I mean, it is good for everybody, for the top management, the senior management, the board, the employees, the aspirants who want to get into the workspace. So all of them have realized that now, to be a good employee as well as to be a good leader,
Hmm.
we need to have some stillness within us,
Hmm.
so that, and it has become no more a soft thing. It's something which is an operating system, I say.
Right.
Like, every software has an operating system. So mindfulness, or I would say mindfulness is the tool, self
Hmm.
awareness is the trait. So I'll use the word interchangeably for this
Hmm.
webinar. So self awareness or mindfulness is has become like an operating system of the whole, of the whole way of being,
Hmm.
without which whatever you want to achieve in your workspace won't get done. It will be like, working and not getting things done, running and not reaching anywhere. Or, it is like a bumblebee, which is hitting from wall to wall, but things are not happening, results are not coming in. So therefore, the last 2 years I have seen a massive change where corporations have started consciously applying mindfulness into their workspace, saying that, look, this is going to be the game changer for us.
Yeah.
And I would not be able to name the Navratna PSU because I have just finalized contract with a Navratna PSU in India, which wants to conduct this for the board members as well as the CXOs.
Nice.
And they're starting from there. So imagine now they want to take it down. So that's how the landscape is changing.
Yeah. 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 And I've seen this, that what's happening is most of the evolved Western companies are now realizing the benefit of mindfulness with respect to focus, peak productivity, and results. And so they've, you can see Google, in fact, they formed this company called SIY Global, which is really about mindfulness and emotional intelligence, spun it off and, started there and then, became a separate organization. SAP does a lot of work on that. And somehow I feel that, India being at the core of this whole movement of from thousands of years and including meditation, even if when I do sessions and I ask people, how many of you meditate even for 5 minutes, you see less than 5% of the population, really doing that. I think it's a superpower, that we are just simply not, kind of thing. And like everything else, it's probably going to go to the West, get propagated, and then come
Yes.
back from them.
Yes.
And then we will say, oh, yeah, now this
Yeah.
is,
That is a
useful.
paradox. That is a paradox we're living in.
Yeah.
That it has to come from somewhere else again.
Yeah.
Then we adopt it. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the two things that you've kind of repeated a few times is on value based and purpose driven. So can you talk a little bit more on those two things?
Okay. So values based and purpose driven. Shall I? Let me just talk about this from the lens of an individual.
Okay.
Then we'll go to the corporate, no
Sure.
corporation.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So when we talk about values, what are values? I mean, very important. We don't discuss these things, and we think, as you said, mindfulness is like a soft thing. So values and purpose, all these are very soft things. We can go about life achieving things. But the thing is, values. I will give you an example of one of my client. But first, let me define what core values are. Core values are like the engines of our life that drives our life. If we are not aware about our core values, believe me, we will get stuck at some point in our life. And one client experience, very highly educated, accomplished, multifaceted personality, moved from India to the US, and he was doing so well in his corporate life, and then finally hit a roadblock. And he had been in my community and in the practices that we have been doing, retreats and all that. But the thing is, somewhere the intellect was too active, and it was gaining more of an external cues. Like, okay, if he or she is doing that, I need to chase that. So he did not understand what his core values are. He just went after what others were doing. First, he changed his profession many times, 2 3 times. So ultimately he came back to me this year and said that, I'm not reaching anywhere. What is the problem? Book also, there is a list of 16 that can you just answer this so that that will help you recalibrate yourself and understand, unlock what your core values are.
We just lost you for a second, Sandeep. Could you just
Okay.
repeat the 16
Yeah.
pieces? One? Yeah.
Yes. So when I shared those 16 questions, after answering those 16 questions, he was able to place himself somewhere in life.
Okay.
And understand what the root causes were. And he really struggled to actually answer that. He took 10 to 15 days to understand what this is all about. And I was actually surprised that why is it taking so much time for you to answer these 16 questions? And then I told him that, look, this is something that you are missing on. You didn't know what your core values were. You
Yeah.
were just, looking for external validation, what the society considers success. Okay, and you're going after them, but because it was not connected to you, you're always course correcting yourself. So that is the core, that is the importance of values, core values from an individual perspective. And same, that in fact intertwines with the purpose. So, the purpose is always there inside us. We just have to get it out. We just have to point it and get it out. Purpose is always there, and purpose is actually very much interlocked with the core values. If we can pinpoint the core values, which are the drivers of our life, without which no, I cannot live. For example, my I'll give an example. My core values, one of my core values is personal growth, and my childhood incidents and the way I have lived through my corporate career of 15 years, all that actually points to the fact that, if I was not growing, I used to shift. And I didn't know why that was happening. But wherever I found growth, I stayed there. Personal growth, I'm talking about. So when we unlock or unfold our core values, we are able to connect with our purpose, because purpose is already always there. We just have to place our, and take it out.
Yeah.
And
So,
then, yeah.
and just to add a little bit of context over there, I think, in all our pursuits, I think there is a point at which, if you are reasonably successful, that you figure out that the success that you thought would make you happy doesn't make you happy.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And that is the difference between success and fulfillment.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key. Most people are chasing the materialistic success, because you feel, for whatever conditioning that is there. And of course, money is all about, security and comfort. Without that, there is a problem. But we're not talking, of not having money. We're talking of, when is it enough? When is it that you're going to, and that is often a question that most people don't have an answer to, because, this is my comfort zone, and I have, my risk appetite is not so high. So you keep doing it till you reach a point of saying, oh, okay, now I've done it many times over and I don't feel fulfilled.
Right.
And
And one research in 2016 in the US, I don't remember, research on personality. I don't remember the journal name, but I have referred that in my book, which says that people who have found their purpose went on to become more wealthier. So there was a correlation between the people who found purpose and who are wealthy. So there is a direct correlation, and it is a direct correlation where they become more wealthy when they find their purpose. So in the long run, what you said actually gets addressed.
yeah,
The long run.
right. And I think, because often people don't spend enough time in figuring out their top values, because, we think we know, but actually, and I tell people that look at your life. Whatever has happened in your life, your decisions are the pointers, because that's what values is, that you live your life based on your values. So what
Right.
has happened in your life, if you can decipher it and match it, you get a great idea of, what drives you. Like you mentioned, personal growth, that then decided, that you're going to kind of get out
Right.
of corporate as a thing. And in a way, one of my top values is also kind of personal growth. So I understand, that very clearly. But value is also important in conflicts, because often, if you, in a conflict situation, when you intervene, both people think that they're right. And
Yes.
in their own context, they're right, because of the fact that different values are driving their, outlook and the way they decide on certain things. And unless, you understand and give people their own, opportunity to explain, you don't come to a consensus, because you're saying you're right, I'm right, you're wrong. And that's, because both are right in their own way. But there
Right.
is still a middle path when you have to work together.
Right.
And so long as you're going to keep saying, right and wrong, you don't get into that middle path.
Correct.
So let's get into the aspect of self-awareness. I think we touched upon it a little bit. And what would be the strategies that you would recommend for somebody to improve their self-awareness?
Yeah. So this is the meat of our discussion, because we cannot run a software without an operating system, right?
Right, right.
Self-awareness is the operating system of our existence, of our being. So even if our audience today takes away this, they have taken away the starting point where they have to start. So first, uh, I would recommend mindfulness, a practice of mindfulness, which each one, when all of us have to inculcate, imbibe in us like a habit like how we brush our teeth. And in the beginning, it is more like a sitting practice. But as my participants who I train, they graduate, there are practices where even if I'm talking to Sriram right now and the audience is there, I can just take 2 seconds and hack into, not hack into, wrong use of word. I can tap into self-awareness, mindfulness in just 2 seconds by doing something. So as we get more practice, or more mature in our mindfulness sitting practice, 10 minutes every day will make you mature in this practice, where you're just focusing on the breath. Okay, your belly rising and falling, and whenever you are tensed, stressed out, anxious, or depressed, just sit down and notice your breath through by focusing on your belly rising and falling. If anyone can do it for maybe 2 minutes, notice, and I have actually proven this in my retreats, that how it has changed their the way they were being before doing this 5 minutes practice. In fact, in the retreats we do 3 minutes. And then we have given a task before and after. And we noticed how this 3 minutes of mindfulness changed the way they did the same task. So one is that, 10 minutes of mindfulness practice every day, like how they do brushing the teeth. Choose any part of the day, morning or evening, but be consistent about doing it for 10 minutes. Don't be particular about when you're doing it. Oh, I do it in the morning, but I missed in the morning, so I will not do it today. Any time of the day, do it 10 minutes. And then just, that will become a part of your system. And there are easy ways of doing it, even as you go, like, at the signal we can do in front, just at the below the lift, as we are waiting for the lift to come back, come down, there we can, do it. Or if we are at the supermarket waiting for the cashier to, do our billing, there we get impatient. So all those points where we get impatient, we can just get into focusing on our breathing, how we are breathing, and how the belly is rising and falling. So this, in a short format like this is the best I can give. But there are programs, retreats that we do, and there we actually give them all the tool sets.
Yeah. Yeah. Because one of the things that I also recommend is this thing called minute to arrive, where if you can take, within a minute, maybe about slow down your breathing to about 5 to 7 breaths. And do this for every beginning. If you're going into a meeting, if you're going to office, you're coming back home, you're getting into the car, you're at traffic, all those situations, just that deep breathing alone. But the thing is that it has to be consistent. Once you're consistent, you in a way teach the body to do it, whenever it is required.
And it becomes your muscle memory.
Yeah.
That becomes your muscle memory. So that is what they say about practicing mindfulness, so that it becomes your default working style.
Right.
Functioning. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on self-awareness before we move into the next one? Yeah. And just before you respond, I think if anybody has questions in the audience, please put it in the chat. In about 10 minutes, we'll open it up for discussion with the participants. Yeah. Go ahead, Sandeep.
Sachidhar has said that's a great point. Would love to read more on the subject. Indian CEOs and EQ. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So see, even we think, as you said in the beginning, that it is a soft thing. Let's go about life, achieving, success, achievement, performance. I call it SAP factors. Success,
mm,
achievement, performance. In the
mm,
eyes of society, we have to be successful.
mm,
But I mean, we all know the famous world-renowned karate champion, kung fu champion Bruce Lee, right? Even he said, to become different from what we are, we need to have some awareness of what we are. And
mm,
to become different from what we are, we need to have some awareness of what we are. If we are driving our car,
mm,
we have to take a turn.
mm.
We have to know where we are so that we know we are taking the turn at the right turn, right?
Right.
Right junction. So that is how important self-awareness is. And he was so fast in his movements. Nobody could beat him even till today. So this proves that it is not a soft thing.
Mm.
It can prove to be a very potent weapon,
Correct.
not in a good sense,
Mm.
for success.
Yeah. And I think it'll be an ongoing journey as well, right? Because there's no point at which you're going to know everything. So it is more like peeling off that onion in a way. And as you
Yes.
keep peeling, more things kind of come up and then, progress
And
happens.
mindfulness, self-awareness also brings in an element of intentionality, which is
Yes.
also a
Yes.
part of being conscious
Yeah.
leader. So how can we be a conscious leader? Is by having an intention,
Mm.
mapping it to the core values,
Mm.
and then knowing that whenever I stray away from there, like as you were asking me, conflicts,
Yeah.
team conflicts. So
Mm.
the leader has to know, okay, what my intention is to
Mm.
achieve the target, but my intention is also to have the team intact.
Mm.
If my intention is to keep the team intact, I cannot just go after, chasing the target.
Mm.
So his intentionality will play a major role, and that intentionality comes in only when the leader is self-aware or the individual is self-aware.
Great.
Many times we don't even think about being uh, many times we think that intention is always good, and we don't need to delve upon those areas, and everything is going well for me, so it's all in autopilot. We are happy in autopilot mode of life.
Yeah. Because it's a
But
comfort zone also, no? It's like,
comfort zone,
yeah,
yes.
even if it is not the best of things, you're used to it. So rather than, risk something, you just do what you think is maybe suboptimal, but still comfortable. So,
Yes.
yeah. So let's get into self-reflection a little bit. Quickly, if you can tell us some techniques to be
Okay.
able to do it effectively. Yeah.
Socrates once said, long back, an unexamined life is not worth living.
Mm.
So just now we were talking on the subject of autopilot, right? So the biggest regret of the world is, I mean, of the dying. There was a survey done by an Australian nurse who was attending to chronically ill patients, and she asked this: "What is your biggest, no, top regret?"
Right.
And what came out was surprising. Most of them said that my top regret is I wish I lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me.
Mm.
How did this happen? Because somewhere the operating system of self awareness was not laid out,
Right.
and self reflection, which is the second step in my
Mm.
framework of conscious leadership, that self awareness can happen only when you are self reflection can happen only when you are self aware.
Mm.
So an unexamined life is not worth living. No one can see their reflection in running water. It is only in the still water that we can see ourselves. So, even Google, when they
Mm.
advertise for their jobs, in my book, I have mentioned this,
Mm.
they they ask the job applicants to
Mm.
answer the 5 questions which they have put on their portal as well.
Mm.
Ask these 5 questions to yourself before you even apply to this
Right.
job.
Right.
So, it is very important that we pause in life. We give that uh, permission to ourselves to go deeper and allow and reflect. For example, let me give an example. An unpleasant conversation which an employee has with his manager
Right.
in office.
Mm.
He goes, back to back meetings in the day. He comes back home, drives back home. He's driving in a very unpleasant mood,
Mm.
enters home, in the same mood. Nothing, there is no pause in between. Back to back meetings, unpleasant meetings, reaches home through the traffic that he has crisscrossed. And now he is back home, continuing in the same mood. Imagine what the consequences will be at home.
Yeah.
He can make things even worse.
Yeah.
So there's always, I would say, take that 1 second before you react.
Yeah.
And that 1 second can give you an option to respond rather than react.
Yeah.
All that can happen through self-awareness, which is, for which
And I think,
mindfulness.
one of the things also is that we don't watch out for enough signals that people are giving us. People are, if they're upset, they're constantly giving you signals in different ways, through their eye contact, through their tone, through their body language, through their shifting, to their, way they're communicating, etc. But we are so caught up, I think, in our own need
Yes.
to push things out that we don't read those signals. And then, of course, there's no, and I think one of the things that I've found is to have, your next in line, who you can trust and they can trust you to give you that feedback. Because I remember once, in one of the meetings, I had an intern and I was, and I was giving feedback and I was giving ideas and all of that. And, I didn't think anything was wrong. So then my reporter came back and then she said, listen, you're too harsh. I said, how was I harsh? I was just giving, suggestions and on what they can do. But she said, see, the point is that that person is now down. Okay. And it doesn't matter, what you think, because you have not done what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to encourage and motivate that person, but that person walked out. And why did that happen is because, I was so caught up in, the idea and the thing, I forgot the human.
Yes.
And the whole, but I think even beyond that, the fact is that upon reflection is when you realize that, yeah, I'm potentially wrong.
Yes. And I want to bring it here that self-reflection should not be misconstrued or misinterpreted with overthinking. You're not thinking. When you are self-reflecting, you are objective. You're being objective. You're seeing things as they are. You're not creating scenarios. What if scenarios? What if that wouldn't happen? What if this would happen? Then how will things pan out for me? So overthinking is different from self-reflection. Self-reflection is like you are taking a step back. You're operating from that lens of mindfulness.
Let's move to acceptance and forgiveness, Sandeep, because that I think is a slightly non-corporate, kind of way of looking at things. But, I truly believe that that's important. So I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, once we are self-aware, we start pausing and reflecting on ourselves. That is the time when we are ready to actually look into ourselves and point things like, okay, where have I not accepted situations and people? Or, in fact, even more dangerous, where have I not accepted myself the way I am? Many people have this, the biggest negative conditioning that people have is, uh, I'm not, I'm not good enough. Okay, I'm not fit for this role. I'm not fit for this, to achieve that. So I'm not good enough. So all that happens because somewhere that acceptance for the way I am, and the other aspect of acceptance is the way things people have behaved with me. So we hold grudge. And when we hold grudge and we are having that resentment, it is like drinking poison ourselves and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
It's like burning throwing a burning charcoal at the other person, knowing fully well that, it'll burn your palms first. So it is always good. to have that acceptance and let go of things, because even medical science have proved this, that when we are able to let go of things and move ahead, we actually become more holistic. I mean, holistically healthier, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. But at the same time, we achieve more because we have closed those chapters which were unnecessary. It was like background processes were running. Your system will run slow, right? So there are so many things going on. So acceptance is important because we have to let go of things. To summarize, medical science proves that we need to let go, because that is how we tap into a holistic health.
I think in our own interest of just freeing ourselves, it is
On the
important
baggage.
to,
Yeah.
let go of these things. But, surprisingly, it's quite tough. It's very easy to sit here and say. In practice, I've seen that, it rarely happens. People hold on to stuff. But the point is that, from science and from your own thing, you're generating cortisol in your own system, which is damaging your organs. And
And
how
let me
is,
give a statistics here. One statistics is very important. Every second we are stressed, we are actually having negative chemical reactions in 1 second. Can you imagine the quantum of the negative chemical reactions happens in 1 second of stress? 60 multiplied by 10 to the power 18 negative chemical reactions happen in 1 second. So I repeat for the audience, 1 second of stress generates 60 multiplied by 10 to the power 18 negative chemical reactions in 1 second. So imagine if it continues for 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day,
yeah,
1 week, 1 month, or decades, or years or decades. Imagine what disservice we are doing. So I hope this data
yeah.
wakes up, I mean, and wakes us up, and we are able to let go of things, because ultimately as you said, it is generating a lot of cortisol within us.
Correct. All right. So let's move on to the next step in your framework, Sandeep, because I think we have less time. So we'll just cover the next two things quickly and then open it up to
And
audience.
that is self-image, revamping the self-image. Look, so the self-image is nothing but the mental model that we have created for ourselves. Because what we went through life, how we experienced life, and more than that, what stories we told to ourselves about what happened to us. I repeat, what happens to us is one thing. The stories that we tell to ourselves about what happened to us is another thing. So the stories that we have told to ourselves over the years about what has happened to us has created the mental model, and that is called self-image. It is nothing but the four walls we have created for ourselves, beyond which we cannot go.
Right.
So
When you say that this is me, then actually that is just a created me. So if you really want to change, you can go beyond that. Yeah.
yes. So very quick excerpt from a book. What is that book by Maxwell Maltz? There's a book, Psycho Cybernetics. Very
Right.
sad. He was a cosmetic surgeon,
Right.
and when he used to operate, on the face, most of his patients, after the cosmetic surgery was done, he found out they went on to become very successful, most of them. So when he researched, he found out that it created the surgery did not happen only at the appearance level. It also happened at the human psyche level. They started feeling that they are beautiful, they're handsome, they're more energetic, they engage with people better because they're getting better responses. So they're seeing that they had kept for themselves, that opened up. So this is in short.
So, wow. So that's probably why the many of the actors are doing it, and then their confidence in a way goes up, not because of just appearance, but because they feel that they're better. So
Yes, because the human psyche goes for a complete transformation,
nice.
because they have just defied the mental model that they had created before.
All right. So we'll go on to the last one. Yeah.
And the last one is unified and purposeful growth. And that is where the team, the organization, the society comes into play. And that happens when, they say that, when we, uh, when we, uh, when we look outside, we dream. You look inside, we awaken, right?
Wow,
So,
that's very nice. Yeah.
yeah. So the purposeful growth is important, which aligns with what the corporate objective is and align it to the individual core values of your team members. Understand them as a leader. That is where your forte lies, in where you're bringing in that self-awareness about understanding each and every individual. I'll cite the example of Rohit Sharma, the way he won the World Cup, ICC T20 World Cup. He knew each and every team member's strengths, weaknesses, because he was fully aware about who can bring in what. Okay, and he changed the bowling sequence. At the end, it was Pandya who was bowling the death overs, the last overs. But even then, he knew that he can get that success that he was looking for.
Yeah.
So a team leader has to be aware about not only the corporate charter, the objectives, the OKRs of the organization, but also have to link it to what the individuals bring in with them, their core values, and that is where the self-awareness, the reflection, the self-reflection, then the acceptance, things happen in the team.
Yeah.
And the leader has to rise above that. He has to let go of things, and then he has to recalibrate his self-image, and finally bring it all together as a team, in the team, with the organization's objectives, and bring it together to not only achieve the targets, the quantitative targets or the qualitative targets, but also see to it that individuals are successful in their own rights, because individuals are not just team members there, because they will also become leaders someday. So the leader here is creating some experiences for his team members, who will later on give that experience to his subordinates. So it is all a circle. So that's the unified and purposeful growth all about.
Yeah. And I think in your own example, the Rohit Sharma example, everybody knew that there were some undercurrents with Hardik going on from the Mumbai Indians
I was about to say
captaincy
that.
issue. Yeah. But he still trusted him at that crucial moment. And Hardik was the guy who got the key wicket for us and changed the whole dimension of the game. So and that, I think that's the example, right? That when you may have your own kind of reservations, but act in the interest of the team, put the best person on the job for that. And that is the whole point of consciousness, where you are aware what is the right thing to be done at the right time.
And let go of things. What has happened. Because in the bigger interests of the team, the nation, you need to take bigger decisions.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the participants. Thank you, Sandeep. I think we had a wonderful conversation. If we had questions from the audience, we'll take it. Otherwise, I have a couple of more which we can explore for the next few minutes. But I'll open it out to the audience, I think. So let's, you can either put it on the chat or just unmute and ask. Either is okay. Please go ahead. Yeah. Any questions from the audience?
Hey, Sriram, this is Sudhar here. It was a great conversation. I had a question related to the point that you made at the beginning, where there's everybody's intention as a leader is good, but I think sometimes the impact and the performance is where it gets really worked up, right? Because you depend on a lot of people for the results. And there's always a tough balance between being empathetic, and being understanding, being forgiving, and all that stuff. And then suddenly you realize that in that spirit, we're just not delivering the impact and the results that we needed to deliver from a corporate environment.
Right.
So love to hear maybe a minute of reaction on that.
Sure. Sandeep, go ahead if you have any comments, and then I'll probably add on. Yeah.
Okay, so if I understand this question right, the question is about that intentions are always right, and we feel that it is right, but but sometimes things don't go as it was meant to go, right? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, and as it's meant to go, and then we, with our good intentions, we are always doing the right thing. We're taking the what you call as the happy path, and being mindful and all that stuff. But suddenly you realize that, hey, if I was more aggressive, if I was more pushy, if I was more this and that, I could have delivered more results. Or your boss tells you that that's what you should have been.
Yeah, so that is where the self-reflection and the feedback loop that we were talking about comes into picture, Sudhir. So the when we realize that, okay, hey, I mean, did we not get the result that we're looking for? Because all this while we were all on the right path, we were having the right intentions, we were keeping the team together, they were like a good team, but maybe somewhere, if we reflect on it, we'll find that we did not self-reflect and do not take the feedback as much or as openly as Sriram was talking about one of his colleagues. He was just having a normal conversation with the team, and somebody pointed out that, hey, you were a little harsh there. So when we are going about normally in our normal way without being aware or conscious or mindful about things, we might feel that it is all going well. But if we're not open, the openness is not there, because of lack of self-reflection and self-awareness, we might not get the right input at the right time. And then what happens is what Sudhir, you said, that we go ahead and we reach the finishing line, and then we see that, oh, the entire, we have actually, we got delayed. It was maybe the quality was not that good of the delivery, or maybe we got delayed, or the quality was not good, or maybe something else. So it is all about linking self-awareness with self-reflection more often, so that we can be more open and take the input and bring it back into the working. So Sriram, if you can add.
Yeah. So I think, when I look at it, I have an intent and I have an impact. When the impact is not equal to what I intended, then what happens is that there is something that happened in between, which is the how. Okay. Often what we do with this is that we think that because, you stand in that whole thing of I have good intent and I'm a good person, or I am nice. But the question is that, were you nice or were you conflict avoiding?
Yeah.
And that has to come when your results don't get, are not in sync with what is thing. There is always a problem with the how. And you have to examine that how from saying that, was it just about the fact that, okay, I was nice and it didn't happen, or I didn't do something which I was meant to do. If you do it the right way, you should get the right result. And I think that is what the reflection and awareness will tell you, that, hey, this is not about you being nice, but actually you being not doing certain things which you should have done. Maybe in a nicer way, but you didn't do what is required to be done. Perhaps you needed to give some strong feedback in a nice way. But because you thought nice meant going soft, you didn't do what is required to be done. And that is when the result. So it's always about
Balance.
when results don't go in sync with what you want, you have to go back into self-awareness and reflection and change the how.
And just, good point, you brought up, Sriram. There has to be a balance. It is not about that, intentions are not always about being soft. Intention is always about being aligned with the corporate objectives and aligned with the individual's progress and success and their, how they can feel they are successful. So that is why I say that compassion is very different. It is not a soft thing. It is a hard, tough thing. There is compassion even while top managements let go of employees. There can be compassion even in this situation. How they let go of. It is not about letting go of employees. It is about how they're letting go. Maybe they're helping them find something. Maybe they're giving them a good reference. So everything matters. It is not always about holding on, being good and soft. It is also about bringing in that balance by aligning with the higher objective and taking the people along with you. Hope that answers, Sudhir.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's it. The conflict avoidance is probably where the problem is. Yeah.
Any other questions? One last question, maybe before we close. Anybody else has a question or a comment? Anything that you'd like to add?
They can type out here as well. Being nice and working objectively, Rakesh Singh says. What you would suggest as routine activity be taken care of? Very good question. Being more mindful, self-aware with the result focused working leadership approach. So partially responded. Okay. So
Good.
Rakesh,
Yeah.
so good question. This is an implementation oriented question. So good. So we'll so first of all, as I said, let me just remove this. Okay. So first of all, engage in 10 minutes of daily noticing your breathing. And if not that, even when you're stressed, what you have to do is you have to inhale and exhale little longer than what you took time to inhale. So you inhale maybe in 3 seconds and you exhale in 4 or 5 seconds. Even this can activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like rest and digest, which activates the rest and digest system within you, as opposed to being anxious, which is fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. So simple thing, the most simplest is inhale for few seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and exhale for 3 or 4 seconds. So exhale longer than the inhalation. That is one. Number two can be start doing mindfulness practice for 10 minutes in a day, any time of the day. Don't miss it. Make it your habit. Get it into your muscle memory and start practicing, at signals, start, noticing your breath. As you're waiting for the lift at your office or at your home, try doing that. In the supermarket, when you're waiting for the cashier to do your billing, don't fret and fume. Start doing that, and you will notice. And yes, one more thing: have an attitude of gratitude. In the supermarket, you can have an attitude of gratitude that I have resources that makes me eligible to come here and buy my stuff. I have a home to go back to. I have a family to go back to. That's why I'm waiting at the lift. I'm existing in this world, and that's why I'm driving towards my destination when you are at the traffic junction. So have this attitude of gratitude wherever you go. Hack into or tap into your self-awareness through your breath, and you will get into your muscle memory and have an intention. Live an intentional life. If you need help, we're always there. We can help you decode your core values, which is the most important thing, as I said in the beginning.
Yeah,
So,
and I think a few other things also is just generally slow down, because there's so much information that's coming to us.
slow down to speed up. Yeah, that is my.
Yeah, as a thing. So thank you everybody, and I would highly recommend Sandeep and his book, okay, Igniting Conscious Leadership. If you want more concrete steps, I've gone through the book. It's excellent. Has nice, kind of assessments, examples for you to kind of figure, and a great framework for you to follow. Thank you, Sandeep, for being here, giving us your time and your inputs. Appreciated. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be putting up the recording in case you've missed some portions of it or you want to go through it again. It'll be on LinkedIn. It'll be on YouTube. And we hope that you can continue to join us for future webinars as well. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you for having me on this webinar. And thanks to all the participants who took their time out and asked some relevant questions, and hope this is useful and implementable at their end. And I would love to hear back from whichever sources they want to reach us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep and Sriram. It was so